Watching News at Prime, let's bring you this now. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi and Operation Dudula members have met to discuss the continued blocking of foreign nationals from accessing clinics and hospitals. Critics have described the move as illegal, while groups partaking in the operation are calling for South Africans to be prioritized. The Minister, Aaron Motsoaledi, joins us now for a conversation around this. Minister, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Firstly, let's try and understand whether indeed you did meet the members of Operation Dudula and what came out of that conversation.
Yes, we did meet. It's true. We met for a period of 3 hours because we discussed quite a large number of things. Basically, what they were saying is that they were complaining what they've complained about publicly, that foreign nationals are taking over space in the hospitals and clinics. People wake up at 4 o'clock to stand in the queue, but when the foreign nationals have been chased out, the queues are shorter and shorter, and that we're running out of medicine, etc., etc. And they were complaining that we are not doing anything about it because they will have expected us not to treat anybody who doesn't have documentation. And they complain that that's not what we are doing. So I responded, Goli, that I want them to understand the scene. First of all, that they might be raising a legitimate problem, but using a completely wrong means to solve that legitimate problem. I also show them that on our side, as health, they must understand that health facilities all over the world, you are not allowed to refuse to treat somebody. To an extent where I give it an example, even a rapist who is raped, if they run into a hospital, you cannot refuse them treatment. It's just the rules. They are just like that. They then said, but because they accept that nurses and doctors have taken an oath of office, but the clerks in the hospitals haven't, why don't we instruct the clerks to refuse to give anybody a file if that person doesn't have documentation? This was my response to them, that firstly, we're not allowed to do that. But secondly, I told them that being in Home Affairs, I understand the situation better, Goli. On the African continent, there is a problem of vital statistics and civil registration. Vital statistics meaning to count people, which is what that SA does. So we don't have a problem in that regard in South Africa, but many African countries have got. The second thing is civil registration, to register your people so that you know them, you can identify them, and you give them documentation. Now, on the African continent, the country that is far advanced more than any is Egypt. They are 92% registered, which means even in Egypt itself, 2% of the population is not registered anywhere, but they are not illegal in their own country. Here in South Africa, we are still at 89%. At least when I left Home Affairs, we were at 89% registration, which means 11% of South Africans are not registered. And when we say we are not registered, we mean you don't appear in any of the 3 databases that the state has got for the population, which is the National Population Register. For anybody who ever took a birth certificate, an ID, a passport, got married, or anybody who died and the relatives got a death certificate, you will find those on the National Population Register. Then we've got another database, the NIIS, National Immigration Information System, for immigrants who came into a country and reported their presence and got recorded. You'll find them on that database. And lastly, the visa adjudication system, people who came here via any one of our 17 visas. So I told them that when somebody doesn't appear there, we regard them as illegal, like we nearly did with Thabo Bester, and we nearly had egg on our face because he was not appearing on these things. We concluded that he's illegal. until a mother appeared on TV and said, no, I'm the mother of this child. And we followed up in Kisali Baragwanath, found that it is true. Now, I said, knowing that when they say 11% of the population is still unregistered, it is close to 11 million, I mean 6 rather. It's close to 6 million people. So it means they will also be refused treatment. They will also be turned away because they don't have any form of identification.
Okay.
I told them that when I went out in the rural areas, I found people in their 60s who don't have identification either. And so we need to be careful when we talk about people who are undocumented, because South Africans who are not documented are not illegal in their own country.
All right, Minister, very briefly then, on this very question of the database, this was a question, or should I say a similar question, arose from parliamentarians asking you the question about the citizenship status or the migration status of people that are treated at hospitals. What was the context around that question? Very quickly.
Around the question?
Yes.
Well, members of parliament ask any question, Claude. Sometimes they ask because something is happening, but generally they just ask questions. In some political parties, they assess you by the number of questions you have asked, and they promote you by them. In some other parties, they even give targets that you must have asked so many questions. So some of the questions they just throw. Others is because somebody tipped them. They want to expose something or to bring something to the attention of the nation. So that's how they ask questions. I'm not sure whether that question had any context, but I remember it very well.
All right. Let me move on to this then. The organization called Doctors Without Borders made a very worrying allegation that members of Operation Dudula are actually being assisted by staff. This is security at the gates of the facilities, including health workers themselves. I'd like for you to listen to them directly, Minister, and then you'll pick up afterwards. Let's take a listen.
At least 2 clinics, we saw situations with our own eyes that showed us that security was working with Dudula. In fact, doing the job for Dudula in some cases. And in another facility, we saw healthcare workers who were actively collaborating and supporting with the group that was stationed outside. So we know that this is happening. I'm quite sure it's happening at more places than what we have seen. But as I said, we are speaking only about exactly what we have seen. And to be honest, that is extremely concerning and very unethical of the healthcare workers and the security involved. So we are very worried about that. We have flagged it to the Department of Health and we have named the facilities to them that we witnessed this at and asked them to address it immediately.
Your quick response, Minister.
Well, I haven't seen that. I'm hearing about it for the first time. Nobody has ever reported that to us because if it happens, it will be illegal. And I'm not sure whether health workers can put their life on the line by doing something like that, especially, I don't know what type of health workers, especially those who have taken an oath of office, like doctors and nurses. If any one of them does that, they know very well that they may even lose their license to practice. So I'm not sure whether health workers can do that or what type of people they've seen. I'm not challenging what they've seen, but we have never seen it, and we have never seen it, and we will ask that anybody who has seen a health worker doing that must report to us, because I've worked with health workers many times. I've never seen any one of them doing that. During the strikes, you know, the public service strikes, it's actually health workers who suffer at the hands of other workers who are not health workers, like I saw it in...
Minister Motsoaledi, are you still there? All right. It looks like the line to Minister Motsoaledi broke off there. He did warn us, in fairness to him, that he is in transit. He is in the area of Melmoth. I think that's close to KwaZulu-Natal. And so he is traveling. Hopefully, he is in a safe place. All right, we're going to continue with this now Containers of American poultry and pork could dock at South African ports over the next few weeks, with blueberries possibly following. Trade and Industry Minister Pakstau and Agriculture counterpart John Steenhuisen say this forms part of a new deal sent to the United States following the imposition of 30% tariffs. Business reporter Ntokozo Khumalo has the details.
South Africa has revised the trade proposal to reduce the 30% tariffs imposed by the United States. It has submitted a new trade deal offer to the U.S. that includes granting America access to export its poultry, pork and blueberries to the South African market, a move the South African Poultry Association says could destroy the industry, jobs and food prices. Its CEO, Isaac Breitenbach, highlights that the purpose of the industry master plan was created to safeguard against dumping from countries like the United States. It found dumping as the main cause of the industry's decline and sets up anti-dumping duties against 9 markets.
Since the implementation of the master plan, the industry has grown. We've had 2.1 billion rand in investment. We've created jobs. We've expanded the industry. And now comes the very root cause of the demise coming back to us.
With more than 56,000 jobs in the poultry industry, according to the association.
All right, we apologize for cutting through that story. The Health Minister back with us. There are 2 crucial questions that we needed to put to him. Minister, thank you for taking our call once again. The same organization you listened to there has raised alarm that if people are prevented from being treated from ailments, this could increase the risk of communicable diseases spreading. Is that indeed correct? And if so, what is your message to the people that are conducting this campaign?
It is correct, and I even raised it with Operation Dudula yesterday. For instance, they complained that they said they followed people who are not from South Africa, whether legal or illegal, but they follow them, who go from clinic to clinic collecting ARVs and perhaps selling them outside the country. Well, I told them that we know that. We know that very well. We know that it has been happening around Musina. And the only way to fight it is not the method they are using. I said we are finalizing the health information system, which we asked the CSIR to do it for us. For the past 8 years, they've been working on it, whereby you can trace a patient from one facility to the other and know what treatment they've got. And I said, once we finish with it, it's not that we'll refuse people treatment, especially ARVs. We'll just make sure that they receive only one potion, which can treat them for a month. And that we are doing so because it will be counterproductive for the whole population if you don't, because they will just spread it. I mean, like during Ebola, COVID, you are aware that we're treating everybody and we're vaccinating everybody. And actually, in our vaccination campaigns against whatever childhood illnesses, from time immemorial, we vaccinate every child who's inside the country despite the status. For instance, with measles, if you don't vaccinate to close to 90% of the population, then you won't stop measles. It will keep on spreading. So I did put such issues to them that it will be counterproductive not to treat people with communicable diseases, because then it means you won't defeat them.
Final question to you, Minister. There is on a separate matter now, there's a breaking news story tonight. 101 pupils from an agricultural school in Umtata are suspected to have fallen ill because of food poisoning. Have you been made aware of this, and what do you know at the moment?
No, I just read about it while I was coming down here. I read it in the plane. I don't know anything. It was not reported to us. But when I read it, I started thinking, every time people talk of food poisoning, which is what I corrected, you remember, during the foodborne illnesses that affected people in the townships. When people say food poisoning, they are thinking about a different thing from what food poisoning is. Food poisoning in medicine means food that has been contaminated by bacteria, by living organism. It does not mean somebody went in there and put in some form of poison or chemical. It means there were some organism in that food, either because it was spoiled or not well prepared or well cooked, and the organism deposit their toxins in there, and when people eat it, they get vomiting, they get diarrhea. So I don't know when they said food poisoning here, whether they mean bacterial contamination or whether they mean the type of thing that happened in the township with phosphates and all the other organophosphates.
All right, Minister, thank you very much for indulging us. The Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.